Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, today I want to talk about something very interesting. Obviously you guys would know what I'm talking about since you clicked on the thumbnail and you see my t-shirt here. Not necessarily just about the movie that I'm somewhat representing, but something that has been a big discussion over the MCU fan base has been the direction that they've taken Thor. And I want to... Now, I haven't scripted this, so if this is a bit jumbled, sorry. But I just want to, speak on what's on my head about this. The thing is that, my thing is that I honestly think that, and I think the way to sell this is that, Thor is a very, very hard character to adapt. Because you look at the first Thor, and even the second Thor, and even, the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, those first 4 movies from Phase 1 and 2, and even Infinity War and Endgame. That is one version of Thor, because it wasn't until, Avengers that, I feel like everyone really likes Thor as a character. And, he was really funny because, he's funny because he's not arrogant. He's funny because he doesn't understand the world that he's on. Because, the first Thor is a fish out of water story. He's funny because he's the fish that's out of water. He's on a different... He's not in... And the reason why we call fish out of water is because that it's... If you take a fish out of the ocean, then he doesn't know what to do. Or it doesn't know what to do. You take Thor out of Asgard, then he has no idea what to do when he's not in Asgard. He's not worthy, because his father's taken his powers away and stuff. And I really like the first Thor. I love the first Thor. I think that's so good. And then the thing is that when you go a bit too far with the with that type of Thor, it becomes to a point where it's we really don't like this, especially in standalone Thor movies. I don't think it works for a whole series of Thor movies, because I feel like that he would be very much like Doctor Strange to me. Doctor Strange, the first movie has grown on me, but I don't love the first movie. I still don't love it. I think it's not one of my least favorite movies of all time like it used to be. I can find a lot of good in it, but it's not one of my favorites because it's too weird, and I prefer him more with the group. I prefer him more when he's more with a... that's why I like Multiverse of Madness, because of his interactions with, Wong and Christine and America Chavez throughout that movie. But in the first movie, he's very much... When he's with Christine, he's fine with Christine. When he's with Wong, he's not understanding the world that he's in. And stuff like that. He's a very arrogant asshole. Which, Thor is kind of the same, but he's not an asshole. He just doesn't understand how the humans are. When you watch that coffee scene, he's like, oh, another! Smashes it. And stuff like that. So, and then, especially, the Hobbit, when he goes into the pet store, and it's like, oh, I need a horse! And it's like, so we don't have one of those. We only have cats and dogs. So, well, give me one of those big enough that I can ride on. That stuff is funny only because he's a fish out of water and he doesn't understand what those animals are, because he's never been on Earth, and they don't have those type of animals on Asgard. So you really look at that and you're like, okay, that's the type of thing that we get in the first Thor. The second Thor, while not being that great, there are moments of comedy that are good. They're more focusing, especially the first two, especially the second one, is focusing more on the serious aspect of Thor, of I am a god with powers, type thing. It becomes alright, I mean, I like Thor still, but I don't think... You can only go with the serious Thor so far. He needs to have funny moments. And I think that there are funny moments with Thor and Loki, but he's funny because he's playing off another character. He's not funny because he's not understanding the world, which, there are bits in Infinity War, Endgame, Age of Ultron, Avengers, especially in Avengers, where, they're making fun of the fact that he's that serious, and that type of Shakespearean and that kind of tone that Thor is. Like that whole scene when Tony goes, "Does mother know when you're wearing her drapes?" Like that thing that Tony says is referencing the tone of the film, that the tone that Thor is as a character at that point, and also that it was also a Shakespearean director taking on Thor. So when you take that element and you're like, oh, that's funny, but that Thor's not funny, that's Tony saying something. But the bit that is making Thor laugh is that because he hasn't been in, like, that whole discussion when they're on the helicarrier, and he's kind of laughing, he's go, "You are all so petty and tiny." Like, that's because he's a god, so, like, he doesn't really understand, like, he doesn't understand certain things. So, when you watch Dark World, you're like, not only is it boring because it's boring, but, like, Thor is very serious without that movie. Like, he's funny when he's playing off a Loki, but that's the only real time when he's funny. He's not really funny with Jane. There are funny moments, like when he puts the bloody hammer up there, hammer on the hat rack or whatever. Like, that's funny, but that's not him. That's just an action. It's not funny like the way that, like, even though that you could argue that the first Thor is, like, especially in the first Thor when he drops the coffee, that's more of an action, but also he doesn't use please and stuff like that. So there's layers to that. And, like, even when he goes on your horse and stuff like that, I mean, it's more words that gets me laughing from Thor more than actions. Even though they'll love the actions, they'll laugh so much, but I think once they started realizing that, like, when you go watch, like, Ghostbusters 2016, which, that's a whole other conversation that I'll do another day. I mean, I've already talked about my defense of that movie, which I might do another one, but who knows. But when you watch that movie, Chris Hemsworth is hilarious, and that came up before Ragnarok. So when they're filming Ragnarok, it's like, oh, I want to make Thor a bit funnier. So they make Thor funnier, everyone loves it, and goes like, oh my god, like, there are still serious moments in there, but Thor is funny. Like, he's actually funny in that movie, and I love the comedy in there, like, where he's doing the whole, like, thing talking to Serdar and stuff like that, and even, like, he's a friend from work, and that type of stuff. Like, that is funny. Like, and I think that, because I think people expect remember the serious moments more than, like, in Ragnarok, more than the funny moments in Ragnarok, is how we got Love and Thunder, because Infinity War and Endgame, Infinity War, like, legit, kind of takes us back to the first Thor, but balances that first Thor and Ragnarok, is that beautiful balance in between. Because if you have a Thor that is the Thor that was in Ragnarok in Avengers Infinity War, in particular Infinity War, it doesn't work, because you already have 10 other jokey characters. Like, you have Star-Lord, you have Spidey, you have Doctor Strange, you have Tony, you have, like, you don't really have a lot of jokey people on, like, the Captain America side of things, but, like, you have a lot of jokey people in that movie. So when you have, like you have Rocket, you have Drax, you have like, you have a lot of people that are jokey in that movie. So you need to make Thor serious, because I can't see Thor in an Avengers movie being jokey, unless you're doing, like, the first Avengers, like, when he's interacting, and doing the whole, like when the guys are doing the jokes to Thor, like, stop massaging his muscles, and it's like a pirate had a baby with an angel, and, the good luck to you morons, and that type of stuff. That's funny, because it's a, play on a conversation that they were having earlier. And like, even like, especially like, the perfect example for me, the way that I can explain more is like that bit where he goes up, where he's fighting next to Steve Rogers and he's swooshing Stormbreaker around, and Cap is beating people with his Wakandan shields and stuff. Like, it's sick. And he goes like, and Cap goes like, new haircut? And Thor's like, see that chick up in my beard? And it's like, oh, this is a friend of mine, Tree. I am Groot! I am Steve Rogers. Like, that's funny because, like, it's Thor, last time he's seen Cap was he had short hair and no beard. Last time Cap seen Thor was he had the longer hair and short beard. So that's funny because they haven't seen each other in a while, so they didn't expect that total makeup, that total makeover, because of the events that happened in Ragnarok and the whole thing after Civil War, how they, like, Black Widow's dyed her hair, Cap has had a longer hair and a beard, and taken the star out of his Captain America suit because they're hiding from the government. Because Thor wasn't there for that. So, that makes sense. But then when you have Infinity War, like, that kind of, yes, it kind of goes more to Love and Thunder, but also, like, that's how Thor's coping with it. Most of the comedy in that movie comes with Thor's depression and his fail in the universe. He has lost everyone. He's lost his mother, his father, his brother, his girlfriend, everyone. And so, and he's even lost. He's lost for the first time. Not just his family and friends, but also he's, like, he didn't go for the head in Infinity War, so now he's depressed. So now he is legit upset, he's sad, and he's like, what do I do? And then, of course, he's back to regular Thor at the end of that because of the revenge that he wants to actually win the fight they didn't win before in Infinity War. So in Love and Thunder, because like Thor's whole character arc in the MCU, except for the Avengers movies when you check them out, he's on a walkabout. He's trying to figure out who he is. And which I can see more them going like, okay, let's make 10 other Taika Waititi Thor movies because they are more interesting movies than making 10 serious Thor movies. Because everyone was expecting, oh my god, we're expecting something like the first Thor, our Love and Thunder. It's like, no. It's the guy who's done the last movie. It's the guy who's done Will to People and Jojo Rabbit and all these different comedies. And so when you watch it, people... And also, I think that was a hard movie to sell. Because that movie is a straight-up comedy. It's not a... yes, it's an action movie. And I think that is something, whether you like the movie or not, the movie has great action set pieces. But I think that movie was a hard movie to market when it comes to the trailers. Because if you put too much comedy in the trailers, you're... telling all, it's like Scream 7. You're giving away all the kills in the trailer. Which you're giving the jokes away in the trailer for Love and Thunder. So they couldn't do the jokes because otherwise people wouldn't be laughing in the theatre. They couldn't necessarily do any of the Jane storyline really, because that would have given away in the Jane storyline. And the Gore storyline, there wasn't much of it. So, and because they've also cut from, like, Love and Thunder was apparently like 4 hours or something, they had to cut down to 2 because everyone was complaining that, like, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and Eternals, and all these movies were so long, which Love and Thunder is only 2 hours. So, I think it was they will find a very difficult time to market the film because during COVID, B, the audience were complaining about run times in the MCU and how they were too long. And also, I think audiences just went in with the wrong expectations. I expected more comedy in this movie because it was like, oh, okay, we put lots of comedy in the first one, now we can go full-blown in the second one. And also, people mainly think that was just a joke fest in Love and Thunder, which it wasn't. You had the Jane storyline, which was actually very serious. You had the Gore storyline. Like, yes, there wasn't much of the God butchering stuff, but Gore's storyline was actually very serious. And there was actually a lot of moments that were actually very shocking. Like, Zeus's death, that was actually a moment that Thor actually got serious. It was like, Zeus! It's like, you're next, Odin, son! Catches it, throws it back. Like, that was epic. And, like, people don't really like the kid fight scene or stuff like that. People love the shower realm stuff, but people don't necessarily like the kids battle. But Thor is a character. From the point that he murders Zeus, or Korg dies, to the end of that movie, is when he becomes more of the Thor that we've seen in the first two Thors in the Avengers movies. Like, yes, he's a bit of an SNL character, but I was expecting the jokes. I was expecting the leg split, because they gave that in one of the trailers. I was expecting the, like, the bird creatures, because they showed that in the trailer. I was expecting all these jokes. A decent amount, but, like, there were some that actually really got me because they didn't show them. So I think Thor's a very hard character to adapt, because it's two sides of the same coin, where, like, you don't really have a jokey character in the MCU in terms of, like, the original 6 Avengers. Like, Thor's only funny because he's a fish out of water character. Tony's funny because he's arrogant. Hulk's not really funny. Like, there are some bits where they have funny moments because they don't understand what they're talking about or certain things. Cap is a man out of time, so you get the comedy from him living in Brooklyn in the 40s and him in modern days now. He doesn't really understand how things have changed. So there are lots of comedy bits that we laugh at, but the character won't find funny. Like the bit in Winter Soldier when he's writing down all these things that he's missed, and people were like, oh, okay. Where Cap's like, oh, okay, what have I missed? So he writes it down. That's funny because we laugh that it's like, oh my god, he has missed out on Star Wars and Star Trek. But it's like, oh yeah, he's a guy from the bloody 40s. And he got frozen in ice for decades. And not until the 21st century, I mean the 2000s, that he actually got out of the ice. So I think that was a very conscious thing where it's like, these characters are, which like now in Doomsday, we're getting the Avengers Infinity War, like that Phase 1, 2 Infinity War Thor, which I'm curious if like how jokey they're going to make Thor. I don't think they're going to do a Taika Waititi Thor where he's full on joke, but I think that they're going to do an Infinity War thing where like he's serious, but he plays jokes because of the conversations that they're having. Because we hear in the, I even talked about in my Doomsday trailer breakdown video of all the reports that were coming out of CinemaCon of what the trailer was like, that there's a full-on speech that Thor's like, I've fought with many of warriors in my past, and like speaking to the new Avengers of like, you guys now don't like each other, but when you guys come back from battle, you guys will be brothers and sisters. Like, that is something that Thor, that's some sort of speech that Thor would give in like the first Thor, or the first Avengers, or Dark World, or Age of Ultron, or Infinity War. That's that type of speech. Or even like the trailer, the Thor teaser trailer that we got, that acts very much like a mid-credit scene. Where he's calling out to his father for strength and stuff. That is very Infinity War Thor. But because we had Ragnarok, I don't think Love and Thunder was a a subversion thing. Like, I don't think it was like. I mean, I love the Escape podcast. I think they're great. I think Andrew actually makes points. I'm on the same feeling that Andrew is, of like, I'm with Alex. I love Ragnarok, but I'm with Andrew's point of, I think Love and Thunder is exactly what Ragnarok is. Everything that people should say about Ragnarok should be said about Love and Thunder. I think that he's correct on that point, because I think that they're both very funny movies. I view them more as comedies than actual, like, serious action movies. Because I think that is a thing that people find it hard to accept, because you have some people that, like, I'm curious to see, like, depending on who watches this video, I want you guys to know, are you guys on the side of the coin of, like, you like the serious version of Thor and, like, or do you like the more of the comedic version of Thor with serious moments, which is what Love and Thunder and Ragnarok gave us? Because I honestly think that Love and Thunder and Ragnarok have a very serious stuff in them. Like, yes, Ragnarok might have more in terms of the Thor character, but the serious stuff in Love and Thunder is more happening around Thor, actually supposed to Thor being actually serious himself. So I think I'm very curious to see what everyone thinks, because I think that I'm at this point of view where I'm like, I love serious Thor in the group aspect, like the Avengers, and if we got the Asgardians of the Galaxy, we would have gone to both jokey and serious Thor. That was more in line with Ragnarok. But I think because the old tweets and stuff, and how James Gunn went and did the Suicide Squad, and Marvel shift around their schedule. If they didn't shift their schedule in the way that they did, I think that we actually would have gotten the Asgardians of the Galaxy movie. Because I honestly think that would have been a great mid-movie from, like, from Endgame to the Guardians 3 with Thor to Love and Thunder, because I think that would have been the point where I was like, okay, we actually saw the adventure with Thor, we actually understand that little bit in the beginning when he's with the Guardians, and then he actually has that adventure with Jane and Valkyrie and Korg. I think that would be great, because I think I think people would be complaining less about Love and Thunder if we had actually the Asgardians of the Galaxy movie, because we would have had that perfect tone, and it was like, okay, this is James Gunn's take on Thor, and this is Taika Waititi's version of Thor, where it's like, they're in the same continuity, but I think that there would have been a bit of a way to lean from the Gunn Thor to the Taika Thor. Which I think would have been the perfect trajectory. So what do you guys think? Do you guys prefer the more serious take on Thor that we see in the Infinity Saga, or do you prefer the comedy Thor? Because to me, like, even with the jokes and stuff out of it, I think at the end of the day, in the movies, all the Avengers are serious. So I think that we need kind of a jokey guy in the Avengers, which Tony is a bit of an arrogant jokester, not an actual jokester, if that makes sense. So, guys, what do you guys think? It was a video I've been planning to do for a while. I've been going to all this off the top stuff. None of it makes sense. Sorry. I've tried to make sense, and it's going to be well edited. So, guys, please hit the like button down below. Please hit subscribe, press the little bell, kind of get notified to get notified for future videos I make. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.